the GM, I'm like, holy shit, this problem has to be fixed. But when I look at the numbers, that's not putting us out of business right now. So it helped me to focus my attention like, oh shit, that's a fire. But that's a fire I can do in the next one. Episode 2, the second time we're doing this. So hopefully we're going to get better at this every time we do it.
Wait, episode 2, is that the Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, of course.
Or is that 3? I think that's 3, sorry.
I don't even, not as nerdy as you, unfortunately. I guess I am, just in different ways.
Yeah. Whatever dark spreadsheet lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so hey,
Excelsior.
So oh god,
get it?
Yeah,
it's really funny.
Right.
It's okay.
It wasn't really. Cut it.
You know, right?
I mean, it was kind of funny. I think you should leave it in. I also don't I disagree with the getting right to the point part. It's just not how I do business.
I agree.
All right, right to the point. Okay, so I made a bad Star Wars joke that was inaccurate. Max is a nerd too, but in a math way. And now what we're going to talk about.
Okay, so what I wanted to recap, we just did our first GM meeting, our first Onyx One kind of cohort of dealers, and we kind of introduced what the idea is. We sent out the classroom, and it's the first time doing this new thing, so there were definitely I think some stuff was well received. I think that there was some hurdles, like getting into a Google Classroom. It was a pain in the ass. And so like getting that set up is like something we had to, call and walk people through. I did recordings and sent them to people and like, here's exactly the steps, because we had to rush through it. But I don't know, man, you got better feedback. What was your take on that?
Yeah, totally. I think that we've talked about this. I think we talked about this in the last podcast, I guess. It was, there's high level, and then there's like functional, like things you have to do, like the button clicks of getting into places. And I think the meeting went really, really well. But then at the very end, we had some homework assignments that had to do with entering data, and explaining how to enter the data from a conceptual level is what we're used to doing, But when you get a group of guys who are new to it, the roadblock tends to be the actual button clicks, the actual labor of doing the thing. And so, it was good. I had some people reach out with some concern about it, and it kind of made me see that it would be easier for me to just go through and call the different members and literally walk them through. And here's a funny thing, actually, because it's actually a huge part of the battle. Immediately after that, I went through the dealership that I'm at, and guess how many people weren't signed into our store's Google, and they were just using a browser that was not synced, not signed in. And it was 3. I have 5 employees, right? And 3 of them also still didn't understand what I meant by, are you signed into your account? And it's funny because, like, for somebody who does it all the time and knows how important that is, it's like, one, that's really easy. 2, it's super important for you to save your passwords, save your bookmarks, right? Like, make sure you have the right calendar up at any time. Well, these guys aren't dumb. They're not. They're incredibly proficient. They're very good technicians, and some other employees that are like, they know how everything works, but it isn't, I guess, important to them, which is totally fine, because it doesn't actually visually affect their day. And so the hardest part of any change culturally or anything like that is that hump of getting them to log into the proper Google is what I've seen. And so what I did, and it's same thing, what I did is I logged in for them, and I explained it as I went, and I watched their faces go a little blank, because it's still not important to them, and that's still okay. But now I need to know that I boiled it down to the most simple terms. The login for our store is orange. Your name has just got that's what I picked. It's got an orange icon. And so it's, hey, if it's not orange in the corner, come and get me. That's easy. It's easy, because like, it isn't because he can't figure it out. It's because it's not important to him, but it is important to me. So I'll go do it for him. And And I think we did see that a little bit, is that like the Google Classroom thing is the outcome for what we're trying to teach is incredibly important. Some
Mhm.
of the button clicks to get there
Yeah.
tend to not be important when you've got the phone ringing off the hook, you got people outside, you got bikes getting dropped off.
Yeah,
And
you got
so
trucks
how do you
sitting in
get
the road blocking traffic, and
you
you
get
got
trucks in
a
the road
forklift
blocking traffic?
just fucking ran out of propane and like all that shit. It's like
100%.
it was like, oh shit,
Yeah,
now I have to
100%.
go pull a P&L and highlight individual cells. Like I get that that's I
It's crazy.
Jamie and I are currently in the swirl. You're currently in the swirl of a store.
Yeah.
We know how
H-
insane it is.
How
Yeah.
how often this is good, how often could you call or video chat a general manager anywhere in the country and have that dude have work gloves on? Because
Yeah.
it's more often than none, for sure. Right?
John just walked up here with like a one of those like garter
Yeah,
belts
weight
for
belt.
stocking shelves,
Yeah, yeah.
and gloves because like
That
he's
dude
yeah.
that dude's not worried about pulling P&Ls. He's worried about getting a hernia. So like that's a different. So I think that a really good takeaway for me from this whole experience so far has been you've got this end outcome that we all know the answer to. We're all telling you this is how it works, right? And this is how you get there. And the first part is the easiest part for us who are in the ethereal, knowing how is this supposed to work and what it looks like at the end. It's the
Mhm.
hardest part for a dude in work gloves with a weight belt who's
Yeah.
getting yelled at by a customer and not trying to get a hernia. And that's a jump that I think is really blatant right now. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean you bring up such a good point. It is those like it's those little things that either it's I don't think it's just because like we've been doing it so long. I think everybody ends up, especially in a role like a GM, you end up setting these things in place thinking that when you explain them once and you say, this is what you do, this is how your job works, here's how you're going to do it, we think that the team's actually doing it in that way. And we never check back in on it. And we never, like, that never changes. We like,
mhm.
and it's not, look, this is an industry wide problem where we train people once, or even what we had to do while we were rebuilding this place, Moto Julia, we hire people on, and the most amount of time I spent explaining to them what their job is was in the interview. And then they get here, I'm like, okay, bathroom's there, that's your desk. When the phone makes a noise, you pick it up and you say hello. And okay, good luck. I'm gonna go hire the next guy now. And so like
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna
things
go
that
look at spreadsheets.
exactly. So the things that like I think to myself, like, oh, of course they're using the Google login because I built the Google login. It's got all like I spent time before they started making sure that all their bookmarks were there, all their passwords were there, all the things were there so that they could easily do their job. And you are so not wrong. I didn't even think about it. One of our new guys, Sean, he had been working here for he's been here for a month and a half now, maybe a month. I go downstairs and he's like, hey, I'm having a problem with my Google account. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me check it out. And it was just that he wasn't signed in. So like I just went to the top corner where it shows like the picture. Just go click. This one says Sean. And he's like, oh, that's my stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, it is.
Oh,
I thought I said it, but I know I tell you a million things on your first day. You're not gonna remember it all. So
well, okay. One just a even more, I guess, detrimental move, right? Is that I do think even us employees, us everybody is a little bit like water when it comes to work, right? We tend to take the path of least resistance
yeah.
because we have to slug through it every day, and that path tends to carve away. It erodes process. It really does. It because process is resistance most of the time.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason. Process is there for a reason because you need to get in this uh metaphor, you need to get the water to a different place so you can make more profit. But it erodes after a while. If you
Yeah.
don't reinforce the process, the water of labor will erode the process. My parts guy, and you know my parts guy, and I am ever going to say anything bad about him. He's wonderful. Um, he used to train all the other stores on shipping and receiving on the process.
Mhm.
You remember that, right?
Yeah, 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 of course.
So if you were to pick anybody in the group as to how it was supposed to be done, you would pick him, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I got there, it'd been about a year since there'd been really direct management, and he had eroded the process away and was doing some things that were just wrong. And when I had confronted him about it, he was upset because he's like, I'm the guy. This is
Yeah.
how I do this. And it was wrong. And he's like, well, everybody's got to be doing it wrong then. And I called everybody. Everybody was still doing it right. And so it wasn't that he screwed up or did bad. He literally just changed the way he had done it so incrementally that he thought that's how we had always done it. And I think that's where that repetitive action falls back into culture, which I hate, but I always talk about, is that he's not a bad employee. He's a wonderful employee. He didn't change his mind or make it up. It was just a natural way. The way he's doing it is easier. It's way
Yeah.
easier.
I thought
It's still wrong though.
when you started talking about, I thought you were going to talk about how he's haunted by a ghost that follows him around places. But
Well, no, because he left it at your old house.
he did.
I didn't know if you could drop off poltergeists, but apparently they follow you, and then sometimes they like the city and they're in and they stay. So
Yeah,
by the way, there's an Airbnb in New Orleans, and there's a 18th century Victorian child who hangs out in one of the rooms. So it's fine.
Yep, she loves it. Anyway, so one of the things that that we're asking all the GMs to do, and by GM, like asking GMs, I'm not saying like we're not doing it as well. We're doing it too with John, like doing the whole thing. One of those things is to spend a tremendous amount of time and energy and mental effort pulling P&Ls and balance sheets and technician performance reports and all these like all this data from most of it coming from Lizzie, but some of it are from your DMS. We got guys with Lightspeed, and we got some guys with Lizzie. But like you got to pull it, and then you got to find out more information, and you got to go to your controller, who no matter what company you're at, we've already established his name Lisa. So we have to figure out, okay, is this payroll really going to the right spot? Like there's so much research that needs to happen, and I would imagine like we know what the vision is. We know like, okay, why you're doing this heavy lift is because you're going to go, holy shit, I'm glad I did that. But I'm pretty sure these guys have just regret agreeing to showing up to this meeting already. And maybe I'm wrong, but like when we're asking
I
to
hope
do
you're wrong, but
really, really like granular analysis of their store. But dude, once this is done, once they do the first version of this, then all the heavy lift is over. Like we're still just kind of onboarding this idea for them. Once you map out the chart with a full 12 months of data, then every time you sell something every month, it's going to show up in that chart. And we already know, okay, that's a sales department income or a service department expense. And so then we can very easily turn that into a report every month where you go, oh, here's my scoreboard. Here's my like total, the 9 most important metrics of my store. And every month, or what we'll be working on is every 90 days, you look back at that sheet and you go, okay, what are the top 3 highest return on investment things I can do?
I think that's the most important part of it. I know that like this slog of pulling all of these numbers and mapping, it might be easy to forget like what the goal is, but like this foundation has to be set so that you can pull yourselves out of the weeds and identify the roadmap. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many things that we've seen working with dealers where GMs are pulling their hair out about these things that are at the very bottom of the return list. Yeah. Like this isn't important for what you're spending all of your time on. Let's identify the top things and go after those. And it just makes life so much easier in the long run.
And look, not just have we seen this happen in other stores, but we lived it here when we were the GMs of this location and a store that was actively failing. Dude, everything was a fire. Every single thing that happened was a fire. On the second day, we walk in. We've got a sales guy who is on a 4-hour delivery. Like our only sales guy is on a 4-hour delivery, delivering a unit. Like, why is that the sales department doing that? Then the tire guy shows up and he needs payment for the tire services. The credit card bounces on the road, like while he's going, the sales guy's delivering. So like now he can't afford gas because apparently doesn't have credit cards. I don't understand. But like, it was just like fire, 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 fire over and over again. And dude, I felt myself day 2. I knew that the swirl was coming for me. Day 2, I'm like, fuck, I'm in it. I'm drowning. Holy shit. It was so fast. I'm already drowning.
Yeah.
And the nice part was we had built a plan. We did this report before we stepped in. We had already done the P&L analysis. We knew all the things that were going to create the biggest ROI. And in this case, we had identified the stuff that was going to put the dealership out of business. And we said, okay, those are the 3 things that need to happen. Let's make a plan around each of those 3 things. So that turned into basically 2 steps per plan. So I pulled it up so I can remember what they all were. The areas that were going to put us out of business were based on sales contribution was negative 5.4%. So
Never seen that before.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, I have seen that before in a real bad situation. I had never seen service in negative contribution. So sales contribution was negative, which basically just means that every unit that they sold out of the store, they lost money. Now, they still, in some cases, they were still showing gross profit. So in Lizzie, they're saying, oh, dude, like we're making $300 on it, but at least it's getting rid of the unit. And then you look at the payroll expense and the flooring expense and the advertising and the marketing, and you put all that into the department, you go, dude, you guys are hemorrhaging money for every single unit you sell. So then how do you fix the hemorrhaging money part? That was like, okay, sales contribution, number 1. Number 2 was service inventory. And service inventory is studied as proficiency, right? So the way that we were able to rank them is we say, okay, if your contribution was where it needed to be, you would have this much more money in profit. If your service inventory was where it's supposed to be, you would have this much more money in profit. So we basically were ranking them that way. So service inventory was, I think we were at 54%. Man, actually, I never even thought of that. It was service that was 5.4% negative contribution and 54% proficiency. That's just a coincidence there. But the proficiency was so bad that basically half the day my techs weren't billing money. They weren't billing labor for. They were just there.
I think that number was even optimistic because it wasn't being tracked properly.
And so, to be fair, it did give Drew the opportunity to try all of the different vape flavors. So like he knows all of them. So if you have any questions about the flavors of vape, he'll be able to.
Wasn't Drew who was doing the? He's not a vapor. That was probably.
Oh, I thought Drew was a vapor.
I don't think Drew vapes. Does he vape?
Not a vape guy.
I think Drew vapes.
Guy. I think it may have been.
I think he is. We should ask him.
I shouldn't say this other guy's name because he isn't here anymore. And
I'm just making fun of Drew, and I'm sorry I derailed you, but I thought it would be fun.
Okay.
So it was worth it for me.
Get to number 3. Number 3 was service contribution. So 2 of the huge hemorrhaging money problems were service department, and one of them was sales. Parts, surprisingly, we went through everything. Parts inventory was out of hand, but that's not going to save us cash. Parts contribution was pretty good. It was about 25%. Like, shit, okay, we're not going to have to worry about that problem. But man, you walk through that parts department or you walk through the storage of parts, and as a GM, I'm like, holy shit, this problem has to be fixed. But when I look at the numbers, that's not putting us out of business right now. So it helped me to focus my attention like, oh shit, that's a fire. But that's a fire I can do in the next one. That's not the fire I'm doing in this 90 days, because next 90 days, I'm focusing my attention on these 3 areas. So one of the things, like because of this, and what we're going to do with these stores in this cohort is that we're going to identify those top 3 areas in the delve calculation. We're going to say, all right, it's this one, this one, this one. This is where you need to focus your attention. And then we're going to say the roadmap comes in executing those like the steps in each one. So our roadmap became we need to stop the what do they call it? W time, where the technicians are working on shop stuff, which is totally reasonable. But like, all right, there are times when the technician's going to need to like sweep the shop, need to like eat something or like fix a tire machine. And if my techs are entirely flat rate, then it makes sense to say, okay, I can either hire a company to do it, or I can go do it myself, or we can have the tech do it, because the tech is the inventory that we sell. So if I'm using my inventory, then I'm going to pay for that inventory. So like that you had put in place. I know that you told the previous general manager
that if Drew's out of work, there's a bunch of stuff we can do around the shop. We can use that W time, so have him clock into it. That idea that slowly the processes erode, like you talked about earlier, is exactly what happened, because this GM took that information as, oh, well, whenever Drew doesn't have work, just have them clock in on an internal repair order and just bill. Just keep billing. And she thought she was doing the right thing. She thought she was following the instruction that you told her to do. But dude, it turned into Drew was billing 8 hours a day. He was 100% proficient, but probably half of that time was billing the dealership for that time. So what that turned into was it cost the dealership so much money in internal labor and internal just like additional billing that for every hour we actually did sell, we lost 5 cents of that dollar. Like our contribution was at negative 5%. So like, dude, that was clearly, we need to fix this problem. But think about it this way. Why is Drew out of work?
Because other processes have eroded.
Other processes
Because
eroded?
like, they think there's no work when there is work, or there should be work. Because you've got a garage full of bikes.
Right.
Sitting
right. And it comes down to death by 1,000 cuts. You've got parts problems, you've got check-in problems, you've got customer contact problems, you have community image problems. And then, because these things walk such a fine line of profitability, it's so small, right? I mean, even when it's top of the line performer, it's still pretty small. You can make very few mistakes and take 10%, turn it to 8%, take 8%, turn it to 4% overnight. And then you can take 4%, taking it to -%. And so,
dude, some of the,
this is a term while we're getting into the numbers of it, because we're talking to this, I'm not going to say new class of general manager, but kind of, right? Like I think the longest term general manager that we have in here right now that I know of, Kevin's been doing it for a while, probably 4-5 years now. I don't know about Brooklyn, Jason, right? Oh, we can't be saying names, can we? We can't be. This is
good now.
Well, we did now. I think he was in it. He's been in it for a long time. But there was a term that was thrown around when I was younger that was always impressed me. Always wanted to be called that. Like I've always wanted to be recognized as the wolf from Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah.
But that person, the wolf, right? That term in our industry is an operator, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember like old 20 groups. If somebody labeled another person operator, that was the ultimate form of the positivity. That was the coolest thing you could be to me when you're in the motorcycle dealership.
Yep.
Dennis Martin, dude, Dennis Martin was an operator, right? Now he owned the business, and I'm not saying that he never had drama or anything like that. Operators go from reacting to proacting. They can see problems before they happen. They put things in place to keep them from happening, and they have a very clear vision of what's happening, even down to a macro level, right?
Yeah.
And micro level, anyway. Macro is the big, anyway.
I don't know. Level. Macro
micro level.
Micro is small.
Yeah, but macro is the lens you use to shoot bugs with. So now I'm confused again.
That's a really good point. We should get this changed. Who do we have to talk to about this?
We're gonna call your congressman. I don't even know who that is anymore. So but I think that the idea is like you have people in this group and just nationwide who are GSMs, and a lot of them were put there because they were really good sales managers or really good service managers, something along those lines. And the title never gave them the skill set that is needed to be a GM. A real GM is an operator, right? And it's unfair to throw the tasks of operation at that level at somebody who hasn't been trained as an operator. And I think going through this and pulling those really, really crazy numbers and talking to the Lisas and getting the everything mapped out, is that important on a day-to-day operation for somebody who has a weight belt on and gloves?
Yeah.
No, not today. But how do you stop wearing a weight belt and
Exactly.
gloves? And you have to become an operator. You have to understand these numbers at this level. I took over a dealership as an owner, and I've been doing this for 20 years. And the first 2 months, I'm feeling better now. But like, I was like, oh, I've never done this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is the craziest thing. Just because I stepped onto an accounting side, I stepped into the thing that for 15 years I've just been telling people to do. Like, hey, get this done. Just do that.
Yep.
Super easy. I never did it. I never did the button clicks. And it was, bro. I mean, like,
I know.
it was crazy.
You and I were on the phone every day both during what we're doing with the Moto Julia turnaround, but also when you bought Scuderia, and it was like, dude, look, I felt like we were like a month and a half ahead of you, where
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
okay, we're actually gonna survive this, but I didn't know if we were gonna survive before. So Justin, you will survive. It'll get better a month and a
I
half.
know.
Hold on,
No, I know. And
hold on one second.
No, quick interruption. The warranty stuff, Jack's going through that now.
Yeah.
We're pretty good just throwing it all away.
Yeah.
So he's like, what is the line? I said, I think all of it, but let me verify.
Throw it away. Throw it away. Thank you.
and so and yeah, and I think that yeah, I think that's a I think that's what we're shooting for. So when if you're watching this as one of the general managers in the cohort and you think, what the hell do I need to know X, Y, or Z for?
Yeah.
And that could be the button clicks, the pulling of things, because we're going to make you operators.
Yeah.
And there are so many owners out there that aren't operators. And what these places need is either someone has to be in there that is an operator. And that is making decisions before they affect you so negatively that you close the doors. And
Yeah.
that's the truth, is that like, if you lose that management from Moto Julia, we didn't make anybody an operator before we took it away. It very much became an erosion of process, and then that turns into an erosion of profit, which then turns into erosion of a lot of things.
So I think too about like, okay, so what we're asking these guys to do. I mean, John's coming in like doing the physical work inside the shop, which is, I mean, it's necessary. Like Justin, when you started at Scuderia, you had to be the guy to count every single part that's in there, because like, who else were you to make do it? Like, nobody's going to do it to the level that you really want to done this. You're not going to trust the information. You're not going to trust that the guy who counted the inventory gave enough of a shit to make sure it was absolutely perfect so that you knew you could start like totally fresh. So John's thinking the same thing right now. Like, nobody's going to do it the way that I will do it. And I don't think that he's wrong. I like totally agree with him. But think about it this way. If I come into any store, now John might be an exception because John has seen what we did with turnaround, and we work really closely with John anyway. But let's say that we go to I don't know, Jason, but we having never stepped foot in that. I mean, I've gone to the store, but not having analyzed the store and interviewed the staff and done it in like the Onyx way. If we started these first meetings as, all right, cool. So, Jason, this is what you need to do. You're going to focus on this and this and this. I don't know his store. I don't know his staff. I'm not there every single day like he is. So honestly, I don't believe he's going to listen to me. He shouldn't listen to me because I have no context of what's going on. So how do we then help a store like get out of the swirl that John's in right now, or that all of the, like, we as GMs were in as well, just less than a month ago? How do we get them to say, okay, just take a little bit of time, pull back from the swirl, look at a 30,000 foot view, and then we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to show you, like, you're going to do the numbers. You're going to understand exactly where they come from, exactly how we came up with this idea. And then you're going to come up with that plan, and we're going to help you get through it. We're going to say, okay, if I was in your shoes and I had service inventory, or, service proficiency in the shitter, it would be affecting my cash flow in this way. And your cash flow is what's making you lose sleep over, are we going to make payroll this period? Now, granted, some of you guys have owners. We have an owner here, obviously, same owner, where we can say, "Ooh, we didn't make enough cash this week, so can we put more money in the account?" Dude, that is the luckiest, most incredible shit. We have to be so goddamn thankful that we've got that.
Can
Like,
also be a crush for people if they don't have a plan.
absolutely, it's totally a crush because we go, "Oh shit, well, we're not gonna make payroll. We gotta tell Lisa to ask Daddy." Like, and that shit is like when Justin, you're now in the next level of this, which is where you can't go ask Daddy for money. And when I owned the store, when I owned Moto Julia, literally my daddy was the guy that I would go ask money for, but he wasn't putting more money into the thing. Like we didn't have, it was a family business. There was literally no money. There was no safety net. So it was, if we don't have the cash for payroll, then people don't get payroll. And like, so then that became like, okay, well, shit, am I gonna not pay my technician? Because then my technician's gonna he's gonna throw a total conniption fit and he's gonna leave. Then I can't make any more money to make up for this. Or am I just not gonna take a payroll? And so like that's what it became. And that's, you didn't many times you didn't take a paycheck. I'm sure Justin, have you taken any paychecks from your company yet? Yeah, like you're not getting paid from that company. So like that totally changes it changes a couple of things. It changes your like commitment to making sure this thing absolutely is pulling in cash flow, which is a positive. There is an absolute negative to it as well, because you start making decisions that are incredibly short-sighted and not decisions that are the long run. So the fires every day feel hotter because I don't have the money that I need right now to pay payroll, or at least in our cases where you might have an operator that is going to put more money into it. Maybe some of the stores don't have that, but like we don't have that same fire in our belly to make it happen. Which, you might give me shit and say like, well, that's not necessarily true. I still feel anxiety. Like I believe that. It's different when the answer is, well, you make it work or it closes. Like, and that
so
in a week,
but I think so. So a couple of things, because I think what you said was really on point. But I think some of this goes back to a little bit of addiction. Okay, and I hate to get deep and like psychological, but it feels really good to fix fires. And when you don't exactly know what to do next, unloading a truck full of scooters is something that actually got done. It's something that actually happened. Throwing away warranty parts. Is throwing away warranty parts making you money? Not at all. Is it going to keep the business open? Absolutely not. Do you guys have enough space to store all the warranty parts for the next 5 years and never have a problem? Totally. But it feels really good. It feels good for John, who might be in the swirl, who might not know what to do next, to go throw away warranty parts. And it's the same for a lot of general managers. The same for me, right?
Really agree. Do my happiest times in the store or when I'm on the forklift? Fucking love it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love it because you're getting shit done and it's labor and it feels good and it's where we all came from.
Yep.
So you do have to acknowledge that as a general manager, as us talking to general managers, is that it feels good to put out fires.
Yeah.
What the problem then becomes is you have no motivation to stop the fires because they feel good to put out. Now, to stop the fires is what we're talking about. And it feels like a step backwards to spend a whole bunch of time in a spreadsheet pulling very detailed and specific numbers. That's that gear shift to operation of, if you feel the heat from the fire, you need to feel a little bit more, even though you're not an owner. You need to understand the outcome of the numbers. And when the numbers get thick and you don't really know what accounts they're going to or what they do to affect the cash flow at the bottom line, you just go clean a toilet or unload a semi truck.
Yeah.
And you will very quickly realize who should be unloading the semi truck once you realize the loss of profit, the loss of cash flow from your absence of making the hard decisions. Because here's the truth. Survival is dependent on base bill, right? What is your nut every month? And if we were to text the general managers in this group right now without warning and say, what do you have to come up with every month?
Yeah.
How many do you think would know?
I completely agree.
And And
Yeah.
then how many do you think would know how many sales that takes to generate that? Now, I'm not saying none of them, but all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that there are lots of general managers out there who do that. And to tell you the truth, really nervous. They're fire nervous, even if they don't own it. It's because they know. And ignorance is bliss, man, where you're just like, hey, we need more leads. How many times does a sales guy come to you and say, hey, we need more leads? And you're like, cool, how many people did you call today? And they're like, well, nobody. That's what more leads. And it's like, well, so if I just had 100 people walk through the door right now, could you sell them motorcycles? Because right now we have 10 people walk through the door and your close ratio isn't still 10%. Like, what are you talking about? Right.
Yeah.
You're not selling the leads that we have. And that's a big argument between owners and salespeople because, like, they want you to pay more advertising, and then the owner's like, they're not even doing anything with the leads. But that's really the truth, is that if that salesperson understood the value of the leads and what they were doing with, right? So that's where the fire comes from, is having an operator who understands the numbers, understands where they come from, how to get them, but also understands how to not just react.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't get into a position of proaction until you understand what your monthly nut is, right? How many units you need to push through what department to generate that income. And once you remove the story and you look at the math, now you can start making decisions outside of the story.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And it is, to be a general manager it's kind of like every other role, I feel like, in the store. Like when all of us started in a dealership, it's not like we were told what our job description really is, or were trained what it was and how we make it better. We just like got thrown into it and then like had to figure it out, and like you needed to like just be scrappy and figure out what's happened. And then you were scrappy enough to where you didn't get fired or quit, or like you weren't a piece of shit, so you became a manager. And then you're like, okay, so what does manager mean? And they're like, I don't know. You're in charge of those guys who aren't trying, or you're in charge of those guys who. And so then you go, okay, well, shit, I'm going to work that really hard. And then the guy who's the GM leaves, and then they're like,
yeah,
you seem responsible. And then you're in that role, and you're like, okay,
dude.
So, but what does it actually mean to like switch gears from being a sales manager, or even from like a salesperson to a sales manager? Like I know Kyle was moved to a sales manager, and like I really don't, and I know you have your opinions on this too. I really don't think he ever truly understand what it meant. There wasn't like, and maybe it's just,
sure.
It's not his wheelhouse. He was put in that position because he was there the longest. But you know what? If we put him in a general manager role, we would have to train him entirely differently on, here's what you do every day. Here's what you have to focus on and you have to think about. Here's what you have to understand to make smart decisions. And I don't think that, it's not just that doesn't get taught. It's that hasn't been like defined, like.
Well, yeah. I mean, dude, my path when I was the best salesman at Erica Motorsports. And if anybody who watches this would like to argue that, I've got awards to prove it. Okay. So the best, never been better. There was nobody there who could beat me still to this day. So being that level, my sales manager quit. And my sales manager did a good thing, and he set me up by saying, hey, these are the deals. These are the details that I do kind of every day. Get used to doing that. So when I leave, the owner can walk in and just be like, yeah, cool. And that's exactly what happened. The owner came in and was like, you're the best. And you know how to open up this program? Okay, cool. You're the sales manager.
Yeah.
Dude, here's what it cost. Here's what it cost John, honestly, was 7 years of being a really bad manager.
Mm-hmm.
I was a really good salesperson, and I still was a really good salesperson. I was a really bad manager. Yeah. I am still friends with some of the people that I worked with. Bro, I fired countless. Kyle being one of them. He was a driver then. It's a funny story.
Yeah, totally different state. Yeah.
Anyway, totally different state. But I fired people. I yelled at employees on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
I motivated out of, I guess, fear. It was a different time. It wasn't good. I look back on it. It wasn't good. I wasn't driving numbers or making educated decisions based off of math. I was all flair, right? And we had a great time. We traveled all around world. At that time, it was the heyday of motorcycles, and you could do that. And we just were ridiculous and pissed a lot of people off. And it was so much fun. And I love that I have that. It took 10 years, 7 years, 10 years of John Beldock paying for that attitude until I started to figure out how to actually manage people and realize it had nothing to do with selling units. It had nothing to do with motorcycles. It had nothing to do with how cool you were in the industry. It had to do with how well you understood people, motivated, and understood what they needed to improve your numbers. So what we can't afford now in the industry is 7 years of building. We
Agreed.
can't afford it. There's not enough money in the bank.
Yeah.
So what this program is going to do is cut through all of that and say to anybody who signs up for one of these cohorts, you can be a general manager, you can be a sales manager or a GSM. You got to do it this way, and you can't do it this way. And if you fit in there, good. If you don't, the right job for you, because you don't have the time to heal yourself in a sense where you're not addicted to putting out fires. You're not addicted to being a power guy who
I want to,
yells.
yeah, I agree. I want to challenge one thing you said in that I don't think this is just about saying, hey, you're not the guy, you're not the GM. I think what I'm hoping we do with these groups, or what I know we'll be able to do with these groups because of my experience with the service management academies, is that this is about getting these. I don't think anybody's not trying. I think every single person in a GM role right now, and they're fucking freaking out, a lot of them right now. I think this is about saying, okay, let's take a moment to understand the whole field. Let's identify what needs to be addressed. That's the numbers part we're starting off with. And then once we're done through this numbers part, it is exactly what you mentioned of now we're going to get these specific things done through others. And so how do we get those things done through others? What are the tasks that you're going to need to accomplish? What are the tasks that other people are going to accomplish? And then when we meet every 2 weeks, it's like, okay, what did you get accomplished? What did the people that you manage get accomplished? Like, how far along this path are you so far? So that we're not only like a way to hold each other's hands and kind of be like, hey, actually, we did something similar, and this is how we did it. Actually, one great example, I am standardizing all of the service times and building new templates in Lizzie and all that stuff. It's a shit ton of work. It's so really hard. And so like, cool, I want to be able to share that with everybody who's like, oh, you got Ducati, you got Triumph, cool, I did it. Here's the sheet. That's like one part of it that's really cool. But the other part is like the accountability piece, man. I would not, I feel like you would agree with this. I do not believe we would have saved Moto Julia at all if we didn't have to weekly write on the agenda the next thing that we did. The thing that we accomplished last week was this. The thing that we're working on this week is this. If I didn't have to do that, then I would have been doing fires all day long. So that's one of them. If we didn't write every month in power sports business, this thing would have failed, because dude, it put so much fire in me to be like, oh no, this thing has to fucking make it. And we pushed so goddamn hard to hit our goal of break even in 90 days that we broke even in 60. Like, oh shit. Okay, that worked. And I didn't sleep, but we got the shit done. And that's what I want this to be. I want this to be, we're holding each other accountable, like seriously accountable. Like, no, it's not you show up and say, oh, I didn't have time to do it. Like, no, then fuck, you're out. Like this is about setting realistic expectations, but like fucking hammering through them, because that's what's actually change these stores. And ultimately, it's going to suck for a little while, just like it sucked for you, Justin, for the first month and a half you were in Scuderia, just like it sucked for us for the first month and a half when we were in Moto Julia. But then it all starts working and then paying off. You're like, all right, doesn't mean we can let off the gas, but it does mean that it sucks a lot less. Like, my wife is less angry at me now because I'm not here, that late anymore. Like now we can actually just like, we got through the tough part. And then if we, every 90 days, we get to say, okay, well, shit, we accomplished. The first things we're going to point out in this group are the big, hairy problems we need to deal with.
Yeah. I honestly think, I mean, we haven't seen the numbers for all of the stores in this group.
Not yet.
But honestly don't see how it could get much worse than what we stepped into here at this store. So, like, I might be optimistic, but I think that like this onboarding process is hopefully going to be like the worst part, the hardest part for these guys.
Yeah.
Because like we were talking
Yeah.
about being addicted to putting out fires. I think once we develop a roadmap with them, I think that like directing all of your energy on this one thing, like I think it's going to be really enjoyable, and
Yeah.
these guys are going to get a lot of satisfaction out of it because it's just going to
I
open
agree.
and it's to be like, this is obvious. Like we need to do this to achieve it.
Lisa's
Well,
calling
so if you do, that's funny. Lisa's calling you from what store?
it's just Korea.
If you do look at it, because I did mention addiction earlier, because it's a good metaphor for me to understand why some people and I behave the way I do to that kind of thing. I think that looking at it in that way, that's actually what a lot of things happen is if you are addicted to fires, right? And you're addicted to the feeling it gives you by putting them out. The way to get out of that circle is to kind of become addicted to something more positive that feels gives you the same kind of feeling, but is actually moving you in the right direction.
Right.
Now, listen, that's like a 12-step thing. So like, don't, come at me for the lack of actual understanding of the psychology behind it. But if you can be, um, you know, more focused on, instead of the feeling you get from putting out fires, to the feeling you get from checking things off your list, which is the same feeling, then you're on the right track. And so if you get a sense of validation and ownership and just get a good fuzzy feeling because you checked something off the roadmap, is what we're looking for. Not because you put out the screaming customer, or you took care of the kid who was going to quit, or you uncrated the motorcycle on your own because your guy couldn't get to it. I think that's the paradigm shift that we're talking about between an operator and a traditional manager. So
Look, there's still time.
maybe when you graduate, here's the deal. Maybe when you graduate the class, our last thing, whatever that means, if you ever graduate, but if you come out of the educational side of the cohort and just go into the reporting side of the cohort, we force you to change your title to operator on your business cards, because that'd be sick, right? Like that's what you get. That's the tassel turn.
Wait, no.
on the hat.
We don't do that. We Wolf. Just Wolf.
No. You can't give yourself a nickname. I already tried.
No,
And dude,
we would be like that. That's like
no, you can't. That's because, like, dude, people would be calling me Chainsaw, and they don't, right? They don't.
all right. Hey, I gotta get to work. We got fires to put out. You got fires to put out. We got stores to run.
That's true.
So
The right fires.
the right fires. Yeah, I think they're the red fires. Sweet. So let's get to it. I got to call back Lisa too. So
I probably have to call Lisa as well.
Yeah,
See you guys.
Yeah.